Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about the life skill collaboration. So, children need to learn how to problem solve with their peers, share community spaces, and just be overall able to collaborate with, others, right? So, part of that is learning like negotiation skills, understanding overall what needs to be done in order to be able to live and work like within groups, right? Or with others. So, what does collaboration look like? It looks like, the ability to wait your turn and taking turns and also sharing of items. Um, it also includes conflict resolution, which we'll talk about a lot, which is, coming up with a solution both can agree on when there is an issue at play. And then also, collaboration looks like, positive play skills, right? When things go wrong. So, oftentimes things do go wrong. And when they do, it's helpful to engage in observation. So, looking for a child's like missing skills in the collaboration realm. So, seeing like what skills, because collaboration really is taught, right? It's not like an innate skill. So, it would be really helpful for you to observe maybe if, conflicts continue to happen with a specific child or between two specific children. It would be important to, engage in observation and look for what specific skills the child's missing. And then to alleviate those issues, you would, integrate the strategies into the daily routine that model, coach, and teach those skills to help the child or, multiple children grow in those areas. So I was actually going to read from the text one of the scenarios they provided because I thought it was a really great example. So let me flip the page. There we are. Okay, so I'm just going to read the passage. So Nicholas had been looking forward all morning to get into the dress up collection and putting on the new firefighter hat and gigantic boots. As soon as morning meetings were over, he headed straight to the dramatic play area and saw Lily had gotten there first. She was already decked out in the new props. Saying, "Ha ha," Nicholas snatched the hat off Lily's head, put it on his own head, and ran off to find the big fire truck from the block area. Lily ran to the teacher to ask for help. The teacher was busy getting snack ready and told Lily to tell Nicholas to give the hat back. Lily told Nicholas that the teacher said to give the hat back. When Nicholas ignored her, she tried to grab the hat back. In a moment, they were on the floor hitting each other and yelling for help. Seeing the chaos, the teacher came over and took the hat. "If you two can't figure out how to play nicely, nobody gets to use the hat," she said, putting the hat in the closet. "Go find something else to do," she told the kids. So I kind of just want you guys to think about that scenario real quick. And it's not that, the teacher didn't do anything wrong, right? Um, but but also let's explore what is she really teaching in that moment, right? And so in terms of teaching those conflict resolution skills with the children. And so I would say she missed a few moments that were, could have been teachable moments with the children, especially really hearing, from Nicholas of what of and from the other child Lily of really like kind of like what happened and maybe the feelings behind Nicholas, right? Grabbing the hat and processing that with him, right? Validating, like, yeah, you were so excited. I totally get that. They're so cool and so new. And you really had it set in your mind you wanted to do that, right? So you can start there and then go into teaching how he could have, waited to take his turn with playing with them, and then really solve the resolution peacefully between the two children. And so, I mean, as a parent, I'll be honest, I'll admit, I've definitely been in that, missing those teachable moments from time to time. I know, like, when, my children 4 and 6, now 5 and 7, will, engage in conflict. They like all the same toys too. Especially if it's like a new toy, right? And it's a lot of times, like, my daughter has Legos and she's the older one, and so she'll build these more complex Legos, and my son, who's a little bit more just destructive in his play, and he likes to tease, right? And he might just uh break the toys, right? And sometimes it's not even like purposeful. He's just a little bit rougher, and also just he doesn't have all like the motor skills the same way that his sister does at her age, right? And so sometimes oh my gosh, it's just a complete accident, and you can see in his eyes like, uh-oh, she's gonna get mad. And there's times where I can really help and teach those problem solving skills, and then there's times where maybe I'm tired or I'm busy or it's the 10th conflict, and I'm just like, okay, if we can't play with the Legos nicely, then no one gets to play with the Legos until you can, right? And it might sound like you're teaching them something, but exactly what are you teaching them really in the long run? I guess sure, there's the piece of like you won't have it, but you're not really teaching the collaborating between peers, right? Skills. So I wanted to talk about how to teach children taking turns, sharing and waiting. And so, like so much other skills for children, it's modeling the behavior yourself, right? And so you can teach taking a turn with a child through modeling that behavior, and sharing with the children in the classroom, and waiting, right? So you could engage in all of those behaviors as well and model that for them, instead of taking more of like a you know dictator type of like role, right? Timers are really helpful because they provide a visual, and a lot of children are more visual, and it's concrete, they see it. um when you just yell out 5 minutes left or 1 minute, it's subjective, and children might interpret that differently and not really know what that actually means anyways in terms of time. I mean, we can kind of get an idea, but even like in their home lives, 5 minutes might look differently, right? Like 5 minutes could be really mean 20, because the parents say, okay, 5 more minutes, and they actually are giving 20. And so that it's just not as concrete when you just say it verbally, right? And so timers can be really helpful. It also places the time ending on the timer, not on you, right? It's not like you saying time's up, and you may, so after the timer does go off, but when they hear it, it's the timer saying it's done, right? So that's helpful. For a little bit older kids, you can have a waiting list for certain activities, so maybe it's more of the popular ones. And within that waiting list, the children, it's on like the paper or the board, whiteboard or something, where it has like whose turn is next. And so that way, it is again like a little bit more concrete, not he said, she said. It's like, if, well, let's check the board, right? If there's a disagreement and who's next. And that can be fun for them as well. It's kind of like now an added part of the activity is that there's a list of whose turn it is, and checking and seeing where they are on the list. A talking and listening stick is always really helpful. So you can use this in small, groups. This could even be a one-on-one. This could be with a group. And so, it's basically that whoever is holding the stick, right, is the one who is talking, and then everyone else who is not holding the stick are the ones listening. If you haven't tried this or seen it in action, I would definitely recommend trying to incorporate this as well. If you've seen it in action, and kids really do respect this, majority wise, and really like it. And they get kind of excited, for their turn to have the talking stick. Also, you can create personal workspaces to teach, like personal space, and personal space in terms of like, your own space of the bubble, but also like your personal items you're using. So if it's, an activity table, you can use trays, right, for each child. And so there's, less conflict to happen when it's understood that the child who's sitting in front of this tray are their tools, right, to be using in the activity. And so can't, so is, learning that, like, they can't come up and just grab those items because that's what the other child is using at that moment. So that can be really helpful. So there are 5 steps to conflict resolution. And, conflict resolution is a big topic in working with children. Conflicts come up, regularly. Sometimes, more with some children and, less with others, but they do come up, right? And so the first step is you want to work on helping the child or children in this, in that scenario, calm down. You can't reach a child, right, when they are upset as much as you want to just kind of talk louder over their screaming and get to the point. You really want to make sure that they are calm enough to actually hear you, because when a child is, very upset, they're struggling to listen to you at that point, or work on the next step, right? It's really important to regulate, right, our emotions first before we move to the next piece. And so then the next piece would be talking out loud about what they need. So let's say if it's a conflict between 2 children, kind of like the picture here, let's just say it's a conflict. Talking to both children about what their needs are, and helping the children, though, listen to their playmates' needs. So help ensuring like they're both engaged. It's not that you're talking to one while the other one looks away, and then you're talking to the other one and then the other one looks away. You really want them to be engaging in the conflict resolution, right? So you want to make sure that if, let's say Mary is the one sharing her needs, that Eddie is listening as well, right? And to Mary's needs. The third step is you want to create an understanding for the conflict so that all the parties are understanding of what the conflict actually is. And then you move into more of the problem solving skills, right? So you want to think about and try different ways to solve the conflict. And so you might think you have the answer as the adult, but the children might already have, a solution that works for them better, and they can come up with it. So it's really important to ask them what problem solving skills that they think would be helpful, and then see if they can come to an agreement. If they're struggling to come up with something, that's when you can jump in and see if you can provide some recommendations and see if that's something that they could try. And then the 5th step is going back to resolve the conflict again if the first solution did not work. So sometimes number 4 does not work, right? And so we have to go back and try another skill, and that is okay. We don't want to punish children for trying a skill and it not working for them. We want to now problem solve the conflict resolution skill that did not work the first time. So I wanted to touch on teaching and modeling assertive language. This is important when working on collaboration skills with children is you over here where it says first, second, third, fourth is you want to start with more simple, short language. And then as the children develop, you can move into a bit more complex, assertive type of language, right? So the first one is you want to teach children to learn how to say stop or no to, peers, right? And, or adults. And it includes, a single word to set a boundary, for example, stop. And then when, developmentally, when they're ready, you can move on to the second, which is really like, I don't like that. And it's including expression of a feeling that you are not liking it, right? And then you can move into the third complexity of it, of I don't like it when you blank behavior, right? And so I don't like it when you make all the rules in the game. So it's expressing the feeling in response to the action of the other. And then from there, you can move into the fourth, complexity of the assertive language. And that's, I don't like it when you, make all the rules in the game. I want you to let me make some rules also. Another example is, or I don't like it when you blank. I'm going to blank. So I don't like it when you make all the rules in the game and it makes, so you win every time. So I'm not going to play with you until, until you let me, make rules too. Or play, or until you play fair. Okay. So then for the children, or for an adult, over here, is for when a child, and this is for like the adult's responses to model the assertive language, right? So this is the things that you can teach children, the complexity of these skills of, we have to teach this language, right? We can't just sit there and be like, okay, use your words. Okay, well, what are they, right? So we teach these skills. And so here's where we want to model those skills. So let's say a child calls you a name. Instead of like sending them to timeout, you could try to say, I don't like those words. I'm going to walk away right now. Or personally, I think it's always more important to stick with feelings. So I think a better statement might be something like, oh, that really hurts my feelings being called that. I'm going to, take a little bit of space until you, can talk nicer to me or until you can, until I don't like nicer because it's very vague. I'm trying to think of a better one. I'll have to come back to it. Let's say a child talks while you're trying to read a story. I know for me, for some, that can get a little triggering, right? When a child keeps talking, but sometimes it's just because they're really excited about that book or they're just, feeling very energetic. Or it could be maybe more of a rude behavior if they're not wanting to listen to your story. So instead of saying something like, that's so rude to talk while I'm reading, you could try saying something like, when you talk, I have trouble reading. I wish you could be more quiet. So I know that can happen, when reading with children, just quite often. You could just say, when a child continues to interrupt, you could say something like, I'm having a really hard time, reading the words when you're talking. Or maybe like someone else might be having a hard time hearing. So I'm wondering if others are having a hard time hearing the story when you are talking as well, when I'm reading the words, right? So it can be said different ways. Let's say a child calls another child a rude name. Instead of saying be nice, or use nice words or don't say that, you could try to say, when you call Paloma names, I wonder what you are trying to say. Let's see what's wrong and find another way to say that. And then the last example is when a child grabs a toy from another child. Instead of grabbing the toy back and returning it to the child, you can try to say, I don't like it when you grab toys. We take care of people in our classroom. I want you to give the squirter back to Dana. So small. Okay. So, shorter lecture today. Here are the discussion board questions that are from the lecture. There's also going to be some other discussion board questions based on the videos I'll be posting, but these are directly related to the lecture. And so the first one is using the conflict resolution skills. So that's like the steps, the 1 through 5. Please create a scenario and then walk through what the dialogue could look like in each phase to promote resolving the issue. So let's say your scenario is 2 children in conflict due to blank. You would then walk through each, of the 5 skills of like what it would look like to help resolve the issue. And then the second question is describe a time when you experienced a situation with another adult that lacked the skills that were discussed in this chapter today. So it's about explaining a time, or reflecting on a time where you had been working with another adult and that they struggled with some of the skills that were discussed in this chapter on collaboration and, just describing that experience and how that was for you. Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. Thank you guys for listening. Take care. Bye.